a new rise. Can somebody lift those hands? It's a new rise. I need you to speak it over your own life tonight. It's a new rise. It's a new rise.
Hello, hello, hello. Megan DiMartino here. It is Wednesday evening, and it is the Propel Deep Dive Global. And I am so thrilled to have my guest, Trevor Houston, here with me tonight. But before we introduce Trevor, I just want to share a little bit about the Propel program, the Propel Deep Dive, what it is, why it is, and would love you to join us in the Propel community. I have been in the business world for 35, 40 years, and then prior to that, employee of corporations. And in 1992, I began my first skincare brand, Glycolic. And from that point, I have been building businesses. So starting, scaling, sustaining, and then actually selling 3 of these businesses. And so with that said, in 2020, I sold a portion of my luxury day and medical wellness spa. And after that, I realized it was time to give back, and it was time to give to you tools so that you can start, scale, and sustain the business and synergistically the life of your dreams. And so since 21, I've been building this brand of Propel, and essentially it's for you. There's a business program. We've been doing all types of interactive things with you, such as this, like I'm doing tonight. But last week we did the Propel Expansion Empowerment Challenge, and we had 8 superstar leaders and legends in panels and panel discussions about your identity, your building your business and your brand. And so with that, we are doing many, many, many things to assist you to start, scale, and sustain. I started this about a year ago, but prior to that, I had my Unique Leaders Live podcast and where I interview people just as I'm doing tonight. And you can find that on YouTube, along with all of the Propel guests that I've had for the last year and a couple of months. And this program is essentially for you to help you see yourself in the middle of this tonight, Trevor Houston, but the individual who I am interviewing, their life, their stories, because we didn't all just start. We didn't all just end up here where we are right now. There is a trajectory, there's a story, there's a backstory, there's a middle story, and that is what I want you to hear. I want you to hear Trevor's story, which is such a compelling story that leads him to where he is today. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you my dear friend and superstar, Trevor Houston, who is on a treadmill. So
hey!
It's an interactive show, guys. Yes, hello, Trevor.
Hello, how are you, Megan? Good to see you.
I am so good. I'm so pleased to have you here with me tonight. We've gotten to know each other in the last 3-ish years, started with Clubhouse. And Trevor has, and I'm just going to give you a little overview, guys, and then I'm going to ask Trevor some questions. But we met on Clubhouse in his segment, which is the same name of his live and podcast, which is called the Who Do You Know Show. And he did a segment on Clubhouse, which was phenomenal. And I say phenomenal. I don't say that often, Trevor, honestly, because, often people are so redundant and kind of boring, but you made it so fun and so interactive. And that is exactly what it was. It was an interactive segment, and it was a contest, so to speak. But before we go there, but that's where we first met, and then we met in real time in Dallas last year when you did a conference with Ramon Ray,
Yes.
which was fabulous. And then, of course, we met another time last fall. So with that said, I've spoken to you on several occasions, and of course heard you speak at the conference last year, where you were very, very transparent. And you shared a bit about your childhood and your life. We don't have to go back to the whole story, but what I do want you to share with our guests, because this is propel your business and life.
Mm.
And I know that you agree with this because we on some level have talked about this, but if you don't have a life that enhances or works synergistically with your business, you're just creating a job.
Ah, give you a mic drop for that. See that?
Okay.
See that? I'll give you a mic drop for that. That's good.
Okay. So I want, and that's what I want to accomplish with this Propel deep dive, is to help people, because you and I both know, because we coach people, we work with people,
Mhm.
and we know so many people say, I want to start something, I want to start a business, but they have no clarity. They really don't know what they want to do, but they're not clear on their identity of who they are and
Mm.
what they want to accomplish.
Mm.
So I'd like you to share with our guests from that place, meaning a little snippet of young Trevor,
Yeah.
and then leading to how did you, in God's green earth, and I mean sincerely, how in God's green earth did you start to identify, because that's really what it is, to identify your passion and then your purpose and leading on.
Love it. Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate you. It has been an honor to get to know you. Let's go back. Okay. And
Yep.
for those of you watching the show right now, I'm on a like a little treadmill. I've had 10 meetings today. I'm like, go, go, go. I have to keep my energy up. Otherwise I'm going to crash, and I don't want to do that to you on this show. Okay. So I'm going to bring the energy, but how about this? Back in 2003, I was 15 years old, and I got picked up 2 days before Christmas and sent to juvenile detention facilities. I was in and out of juvie as a teenager. Had a lot of stuff going on in the house. My environment was kind of chaotic. My mom was disabled, couldn't work, and so we didn't have a lot of money going on. And my mom invited these roommates in the house, and we had lots of people living with me. Okay. I remember their names like it was yesterday. I had Paco, Flaco, Scarface, Kilo. I had Crips living with me. And like, these were the male role models in my life that I kind of like looked up to. Honestly, I looked up to these people. Well, these people weren't up to no good. Okay. And so I kind of fell into that crowd, started getting in a lot of trouble, again, in and out of juvenile detention facilities. And I got picked up when I was 15 for a violation of probation. And they ended up sending me back to juvie and giving me a choice. And I actually got a second choice at life. And this is where I'm super grateful, because I could have easily been thrown away and got caught up in the system. Okay, easily. And the judge looked at me and said, hey, Trevor, you got a choice. You can't stay with your mom. It's unsuitable for you. So you can either move with your father, or, you know, the other alternatives, we can put you away for 5 years until you're 21. Okay. So I'm like faced with this choice, scared to death. I'm like, Daddy, come on, you know, save me, Daddy. Right. And sure enough, my dad took me in, and I think about that just alone. Right. That was my heavenly father sending me to see my earthly father. Right.
Yes.
And like, what a gift that was. And not only that, I think about my father, like taking me in. I was crazy. He took me in. He didn't have to take me in. He could have said, nah, throw him away. Right. But he didn't. So I go to my father's, and that's where things kind of shifted a little bit. I still had a little bit of wild roots going, but my father really showed me how to work hard. Okay. What a good, strong work ethic was. Like, I remember the whole rise and grind thing. Like, he would get up super early, and I remember watching him drinking coffee and like watching the news before the sun would ever even be up. And then we'd get to the job site. My father was a painter, so he'd work with his hands. And I remember working with my father and turning something ugly into something beautiful. Right. And that sense of pride at the end of the day, after you put in a day's work. Right. And so he taught me how to work and how to earn money and how to save money. And so he kind of helped me really build some values, right? And some skill sets. And then fast forward, I got into the automotive industry, and that's where I finally found something that I was like really good at for the first time in my life. I was always told I was a screw up. I was never going to amount to anything. Like I was never good in school. They put me in special ed classes. Okay. I rode the short bus at school. Right. And they had me in a special class for troubled kids and all this kind of stuff. And, so I was never told I was going to be anything in life. And then I found something. I got in the automotive industry, and for whatever reason, it clicked. I became the top producer there the very first year I was there. And my manager there, he was like a coach. He was leaning into me. He was really mentoring me and helping to mold me. And I'm going to tell you, I leaned into that, and it became a positive obsession for my energy. Mm-hmm. For those of you watching right now, you can already tell I got a lot of energy. I'm like, they told me I was ADD and I needed medication. I didn't need medication. I needed a positive place to channel my energy.
Exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I found that. And that actually kept me out of trouble, because if I didn't have that positive place to channel my energy, I was putting it in negative places. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? So I got in the automotive industry, started crushing it, doing really well. Age of 23, I was already making like 150K. I was making more than anybody I knew around. So it really started off my sales career. Right. And the only issue that I had there at that company where I was, the reason why I left was simply because I kept hitting that glass ceiling. Mm-hmm. Right. Working for someone, in order for me to take that next level, in order for me to level up, I had someone else. There was a decision maker. Somebody else had to open that door for me to go up. Right. And so my GM didn't really like me so much. So, because I was real still kind of aggressive and things like that. And he didn't like it so much. And they also didn't want to lose their top sales guy. So I remember the day I left that company, I had to make a decision. Right. And a lot of times I deal with people all the time that are having to make this decision, whether or not they should leave or go or stay or keep working for this company that they're not happy with. I deal with people all the time.
Yes.
And I had to make this decision. I remember looking at my GM, and I had a conversation with him, and I said, hey, a couple years ago, there was this opportunity, and it didn't work out at that point. Wasn't a good fit at that point, but this opportunity is up again. Here it is. And so now I want to know, like, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts this time? And he said, well, that's the good news. I don't have to make a decision right now. I've got 90 days to make a decision. I said, oh, okay. Well, that's unfortunate, because if you don't know after 6 years, you don't know after 90 days.
Right.
Like you're looking at, right, the product of 6 years of me giving you my blood, sweat, and tears and being the top producer here for 6 years. Like if you don't know after 6 years, you're not going to know after 90 days. So I put in my 2 weeks notice. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I got into financial services, and that's what I do now, because I get to help people with that. But
before you go on to that and all of that, let's unpack that, because
I know it's a lot.
A lot. No, well, the young Trevor, we don't have to unpack, meaning that it is, environment.
Environment.
It's just environment. And, we don't know. We hear that all the time, but meaning we're a sponge, we're a blank slate. And so you just absorbed all of that. By the grace of God, and it was grace, your father, because you're right. I mean, you and I both hear stories all the time that parents say, no, hell's bells, I'm not taking that loser in. He's been down the path. So by the grace of God, your dad said yes.
And my stepmother. I thought about this. I hadn't really thought about this. So my father had remarried my stepmother, right?
Yes.
And I told her recently, because I'd never really thought about this, and one day it just hit me. I was like, I've always praised my father, right? Mm-hmm. And I never really gave a whole lot of praise to my stepmother.
Oh,
she was there. She was there. You know what I mean? She could have looked at my dad and said, "Are you crazy? Not this kid. No, I didn't sign up for this," right? And that could have influenced my father's decision, right? She could have. There's so many things, right? My stepmother. Wow. She took me in too. you know?
Totally. Oh,
So
yes.
I
Oh,
told her, thank you. I
yes.
mean, just here recently, I was like, you know what? I never really told you this, but I love you. Thank you. You know?
Yes, I do. Because I mean, we could change the whole trajectory of this evening talking about that from my own personal experience and my own daughter and her experience. So the point is, yes,
Mm,
yes, yes. So thank you, your mama there. So basically, though so now I didn't know there was she. So
hmm.
they gave you a stable home and
Correct.
that work ethic, as you said. So they
Hmm.
gave you love, unconditional love, rules. Hello,
Hmm.
rules.
Boundaries.
Boundaries, yes, yes, yes. So then you go into the auto industry, and this is a little unknown fact. I don't share this often, but I worked at Overseas Motors selling Jaguars for 6 months in
Mm,
Fort Worth, Texas, while I was putting together my first skincare brand. I left my job, Trevor, had a daughter in college, and I was like, I guess I need to make some money here, even though I had some money saved to do this. And so I very teeny weeny window worked in sales in the auto industry, and I loved it. Yes, there were Jaguars, but I was the only female in the whole dang
mm,
place. But it was it really was a great experience on so many levels. Okay, so you entered the auto industry, and
hmm.
so the other thing that I'd like to kind of tie a bow on with your young Trevor, your end of high school days, then to the auto industry and back to the GM, is that, I mean, there's a lot of places there, but the thing you said about learning disabilities slash ADD, ADHD, all those A's and D's and B's and C's. The thing is that labels are so destructive.
Hmm.
And so guys who are ever listening and watching this, because this will be on YouTube forever, and this is a podcast, anyone that has been told something, just throw it out the window, take it to the sink, burn it. It is not fact. And when you take that into your being, then you live into that. So you had to rise above that, and your mother, and stepmother, and your dad helped you with that. But also just the success, I'm sure, on some level. But the success could have also been a real explosive thing, because you had
Mm.
some money in your pocket, and you could have gone off the real deep end there.
Oh my gosh. So you're absolutely right. So when I got a hold of some money,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're right. I could have been just out there blowing it. Okay. I could have been out here big balling, just making it rain. No,
Yeah.
I had scarcity mindset. Okay. Because I grew up in real extreme poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Like there were times where we didn't have lights, electricity. I remember, I remember a lot of candlelight. Okay. A lot of candlelight. Let's put it that way. I remember propane heaters. Okay. I remember propane stoves. It was like we were camping inside, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the house. I remember having to steal water from the neighbor's water hose in a 5-gallon bucket, take it home, pour it in the toilet just so I could flush the toilet.
Yeah.
And then we got black mold in the house.
Oh my.
So they had to gut the house. They had to strip it, and they stripped all the sheetrock out and all the carpet out and just ripped everything out. And all of our belongings get thrown away because it's all contaminated. And I didn't have a bed. So I had to sleep. What I did was I took this old bookshelf and I knocked the bookshelf over. So it was just a big box. And I took all the shelving out of it. And then I've dumped a bunch of clothes and anything soft I could find inside of this, big bookshelf, threw a futon mattress on top of it. And that was my bed that I slept in.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what poverty is like. I know what it's like to like have nothing, be hungry, like literally hungry. I know what that's like. And so all of a sudden I get a hold of some money. I'm like Scrooge McDuck. I'm just stacking it away. I'm like, I'm not blowing that. Are you kidding me? And so I knew how to save too. I got really good at saving money.
Because you mentioned your dad also showed you that to some degree.
Yeah, he taught me how to work and how to save.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a little piece that was missing, and that was the how to multiply.
Okay.
right? And that's
Yes.
where financial services came in, where I went and got a financial advisor, and he started to show me the way and started learning these strategies. And fast forward now, that's what I do, right?
Right.
I get to help people with that. But that was kind of a missing element, was just, I was simply, again, I knew how to earn and I knew how to save the money, but I didn't know that third step, which was how to multiply wealth and things like that. So,
Right.
but yeah, that's,
I was just reading last night, and it was a very small little piece about just that, and about how the Vanderbilts had mansions all up and down Fifth Avenue, and now they're all gone. But the Rockefellers knew how to multiply their wealth, and so I mean, obviously John D. is no longer with us, but some of the older folks aren't either. But each what's the word? A generation is set up when they come onto the planet. Wow.
100%. 100%. They get set up. Like, wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that
I think it even talks about, I don't know the exact scripture. Okay. So don't quote me on this, but it talks about it in the Bible,
yes,
where, you're supposed to have generational wealth. Right. So, it's,
well, the guys with the talents is another story in the Bible about multiplication.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. The parable of 100 of the talents. Yeah, absolutely.
Because it was truly, I mean, about multiplying it. The one that put it into the ground and hid it, then it did nothing. And so that was like no dice. That's not the way it
100%.
should. Yeah.
Call him something about like, you lazy fool or something. It was pretty harsh.
Yeah,
I can't remember the exact
harsh.
words, but it's like, you lazy fool or something. And it was like, whoa.
Exactly.
If you just put it in the ground, it's like, ooh, you're not supposed to do that. So, but that's what I was doing, right? Yes. Again, I was just, I didn't know what to do with it.
Environment you didn't know. So
and you don't get taught this stuff in school, right? So you don't get taught in school. So I went and got help, because I didn't know what to do, right?
But what's really fabulous about that is that not only did you learn to multiply, you sought out, assistance and advice and training, but you then said, I am going to share this with others. And
right.
That to me is the other piece of, someone said to me, I don't know if you know Richard, I know you know about him, but Richard Bruce, the gentleman who has the orphanage in Uganda, he was on the Propel a couple of weeks ago, Propel Deep Dive Global. And he said to me in his fabulous accent, he goes to me, Megan, you're like a propeller. And, because my heart, like you, we're just doing it in different ways, is to help others propel their business and their lives, and it was, what's the word? Challenging, I guess, as a single mother, but also with a strong work ethic and drive, and to learn to balance it all,
one of my, I think the things that's really one of my big drivers is I like to help people avoid pitfalls that I've been through.
Yes.
Like the hurt, the pain, the struggles, anything that I've gone through and I've had to learn the hard way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just got to share with everybody. I'm like, hey, don't put your hand on the stove. It hurts.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I do.
And like, I just naturally want to do that. I want to share that with as many people as I can, like anything that I've gone through. And what do they say? There's that saying, the turn your mess into your message.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Turn your mess into your message. And so that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm trying to share with people like, hey, how did I transform my life and stuff like that? Because there was more than just, learning how to work and how to save and all of that. Like there's so much more than that to actually make that transformation. Because I'm going to tell you, I was a crazy kid. Okay. Yes. And it was a lot of work to make that transformation. But
and to make this, so let's stay on this for a minute. Because that is another piece, because what I also see, not only with other people, but myself, it's that inner reflection. It's that, mess to your message. Yes. But there's that, I did a post the other day and I saw this visual and it said my path. And it was like this, woo, like on a little tricycle. And at the end, a little heart. And then the real life was, woo, so many, we can get so screwed up and disjointed and taken off the path by other pitfalls, personal, life, illness. I don't mean you, but meaning family, whatever. And so I really know that its persistence is one of the things that is key to once you understand what that is that you want, and that is has quotation marks on it. Okay. So yes, you were successful in the auto industry. Yes, you made a boatload of money, and you were smart to not blow it, and took the time then to be guided. Okay, great. Very great. But how did you take the transition in your brain and your spirit to become the man of God that you are today?
I love that. So you just said it. You said, man of God that you are today. So faith was a big part of the walk. In and out of my childhood, like church was in and out, just depending on, if I was going back and forth to my father's house or something like that. Because there was a time period where I had split custody with my father, and I would go back and forth, right? And so my dad would take me to church and stuff like that. But, you're a kid. It's not really your choice, okay? But he was planting seeds, though, right? So I'm going to tell all the parents out there, take your kids anyways, drag them if you have to, okay? Planting those seeds, okay? So I got to see a little bit of that, right? But it wasn't until I'm going to tell you, I was in the auto industry, and even when I was there, I still had a little bit of looseness going on. I wasn't fully worked out yet, but I was definitely working on myself. And I remember, I don't know how or what, I still don't to this day. I still don't remember how or what. I don't remember if I was invited or how I got to this church, but I walked into a church one day. I still can't remember how I got there. I just remember I walked in, and there was this guy, Pastor Joel Scrivener, and this guy, instant connection. Okay. He's an entrepreneur, a young entrepreneur. He was a 4-time world Taekwondo champion. So like a fighter, physical, right? Yeah, I was a fighter, right? This is what some of the trouble I got into was being, hey, going to blows, right? So he was a fighter. He was an entrepreneur. This guy had command and authority, and I'd never heard anybody speak like this man before. With vulnerability, he shared things that was like, wow, I can't believe he's sharing these things. Talked about his daughter dying, and what he had to go through to get through that. Talked about how he was molested and what he had to do to get through that. Things that were just like, whoa. I just connected. In the worship team there. The worship team blew me away. Literally, music is one of the things that I love. I have a super passion for music. And I remember walking in and this worship music just hitting me like pow. And I was like, this is my church. This is it, and been going there ever since. And yeah, Covenant Church in McKinney, shout out to you. Love them. But yeah, faith was a big part of it. Faith was a big part of it.
Wow. Then, so therefore, during that, because Paco and Taco were your role models.
Paco and Taco, no. Paco and Flaco. Taco. Yeah, Taco. No, Paco and Flaco, Scarface and Kilo. Literally, these were people. Like we talk about throwing up the gang signs and the whole nine. Okay, I was out there doing the Crip Rock at 13 years old. Okay, I look like a fool. I look like Eminem, blonde hair. Right. Now, I swear, I had FUBU. I was wearing FUBU, and I looked like a fool. Okay. Anyways,
but like you said, and then you went to the other. I don't want to use the word extreme with your father and stepmother, but it was very, very black and white, family, home, and toe the line, so to speak. And
it wasn't even so strict. Like sometimes people think he wasn't like a drill sergeant or anything. No, my father actually was one of the most content, peaceful,
nice,
calm. Even when I do something stupid, I'd do stupid stuff again. Sure. And we'd sit down and talk about it. Me and my father, like
That's the
man to man. We'd talk about it calmly,
Yeah.
and we would debate. I remember sitting at the kitchen table debating why I thought marijuana was like a good idea. Like we're debating, like going back and forth. And I'm like, yeah, but alcohol, has all these issues and it's legal and this, that, and the other. We're going back and forth. And I was making valid points. And so was he, and
that's one of the reasons why you were able to heal.
yeah.
And that's another reason why you were able to receive when you walked into that church. Yeah, because you were not, so your dad was not this drill sergeant, as you said. That was salve on your spirit to help you heal. Yes.
And I
So
still had a healthy fear of my father, though. I will tell you this, a healthy fear. Fear is actually a good thing. They say the fear of God, like you're supposed to fear God, a healthy fear, I look at, I think about, God in that way, like God is like a parent and like, hey, a parent's going to discipline you if you're acting a little bit crazy. Okay. It's going to discipline you, but the parent loves you and the parent wants the best for you. Right. That's the way I think about God. God's our father and he looks at us and you know what? You need to have a fear though, because if you get out of line, there's going to be some discipline. You can't just get out of line and get crazy. There's going to be some discipline. And so, yeah, you got to have a healthy fear. I like that term, is healthy fear. I don't think people should just be afraid of their parents or anything like that, but the healthy fear is good. I think it's a good thing.
It's respect. One of my favorite scriptures is Matthew 6:33, is seek ye first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, right? And all things will be given unto you. But seek first and that righteousness, meaning the structure that you're speaking about. And it will then it'll work itself out. You will be guided to the things that you need, in your life. So you were now, so you were healing through the Word of God, through the power of the Holy Spirit with music and that environment. And so you have been able to put your life and the priorities together of what, who you are, show.
Well, it is about who you know. So my whole story, there's these dots that connect, and these dots are people along the way. The judge that found leniency on me, that judge could have thrown me away without like hesitation. No, bye-bye. Okay.
Yes.
Man, it would be a different story today, but that person found leniency on me, right? My father, my stepmother's, taking me in, right? The sales manager when I was working at the car dealership, who, man, he was like a drill sergeant, but he was like, we became like Bill Belichick and Tom Brady.
Okay.
Right? He would be harsh. He was not easy to work with, but I trusted and respected that he knew what he was talking about. And so he would call the play and I'd run it and we'd score a touchdown. Like, what did you know? I'd score a touchdown and I just kept crushing it and bringing home the trophy. Like, I look up to him too, right? There's these people along the way.
Yes.
My financial advisor who helped me to get where I am today, helped me plan an exit strategy. How did I leave the auto industry? Like, he helped me with that. So there's these people, and that's why it's all about who you know. It's the people in your life, and God puts them there for a reason. There's a path, right? And and so anyways,
how did you let's take a left turn into your marketing, your media. Let's take a left turn into that. So you're building your financial business, and how did the other piece of your career start?
Okay, so the Who You Know show and all of that became started from, honestly, I was doing some volunteering. I was volunteering at a church at a career transition group, and I remember what it was like to be in a career transition myself. In 2008, before I got in the auto industry, I was working at Harley Davidson. I was selling Harleys, and I remember getting laid off. And I remember the impact that had on me. And I almost went back to some old roots, okay? I almost went back because I got depressed. I got anxious. I was fearful. I had stress. And the anxiety. I had all of this from being laid off, and I'm watching my money go backwards, okay? And I'm like thinking I'm going back to poverty and I'm a failure. And oh my gosh, this anxiety, right? And I started drinking too much again. You know what I'm talking about? I started going back some old ways.
I do.
And I remember that impact. Well, again, fast forward a few years, I find this group I run into, and it's 100 job seekers who are senior level executives, and they're having a real hard time getting back to work because they're dealing with age discrimination, you know, and so their job search has taken them a year and a half, 2 years. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And you could just see how broken these people were. They're broken.
Yes.
You know, and the energy was so low in the room, and they're just feeling hopeless, and they're feeling like I could just, anyways, I felt it. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I got to do something. I just felt led to do something. So I hung around, started volunteering. I started asking these job seekers, hey, what's going on? What's happening? What's holding you back in your job search? What's keeping you from getting a job, you know? And I started to find commonalities. I started to find things that were holding people back. And it's so interesting because when people would land a job, they would say, well, it was networking. It was so-and-so. It was an old boss or an old coworker I connected with. And it wasn't what they knew. It was who they knew. It was the network that got them to that next job. And so started to connect some dots there. I'm like, okay, here's some commonalities. I also noticed that they weren't getting seen. They weren't getting noticed. Their resume was going in the black hole, all that stuff. So I'm like, okay, well, I can network. That's what I do. I'm in financial services and I network and I meet people. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm like, okay, so I got that. I can help with that. Cool. I'm like, well, let me go build my network to support them. Right. So what I did is I went on LinkedIn and I started connecting with a bunch of recruiters. And I started having coffee with recruiters. And I was like, hey, I got this group of job seekers over here. Right. Would you mind if I made some introductions? I just want to connect the two of you. Right. And so I started doing that so much so that I started getting noticed for it. People are like, oh, man. And jobs were getting landed and all this kind of stuff was happening. And so all that activity, I was getting noticed and I was getting discovered through that process. And so I got invited back in 2017 to go on to my first podcast. Right. And I got invited to this show and they were interviewing me about it. And man, I just got the bug.
Yeah,
I got the bug. I was like, man, there was so much energy. And I was like, I looked at my business partner. I'm like, hey, we got to do a show. and here's what we're going to do. We're going to invite those recruiters and hiring managers and career coaches and anybody that can help job seekers. We're going to invite them on the show.
Wow.
Right. And that's what we started it out. It was the Who You Know Job Networking Show. And it's shifted because it was strictly only career back in the day. That was all we talked about was career. And then you know what? I became a career strategist through that process.
Right.
I learned all this stuff. I'm like, I know a career like the back of my hand. Okay.
Right.
But I also knew a lot more than that. And so the show is like, it's now I tell people it's who you know can make all the difference in your wealth, your health, your business, your career, and your life. Okay. Yes. It's like a holistic approach because I think you alluded to this earlier. You're not just your career.
No.
Right. Like you're if you look at a holistic, what's that diagram? It's like a circle and it talks about like faith and it talks about your health and your finances and it talks about, your relationships.
Oh, the seven pillar thing.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
And that's what I look at. Like our show is a self-development podcast and it helps people in all of those verticals.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Not just career anymore. And that's where it started. It was all just career. And honestly, I'll be real with you. After like 200 episodes of career, I kind of got burnt out on it myself. I'm like, I need to talk about something different. So
yeah, a little energizing to you as well. Because
yeah, I gotta want to keep talking.
In that zone, and it's like, hey, buddy, let's get out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is where people like Glenn Lundy came in play, right? Because I noticed one thing. I was like, well, I still want to lift up the audience of job seekers that I've built. I don't want to just stop talking about careers and then they leave. So I'm like, okay, what else do they need?
Right.
They need motivation, education, inspiration, right? Like we talk about, I'm like, and that's where people like Glenn Lundy, David Meltzer, all these people that are what I call world changers.
Yes.
That
Yes.
could go in and speak life and motivate these people. Because you know what? If you got no motivation, I could teach you how to do it, right? But what's that saying? You can teach them how to
Teach
horse
somebody
drink.
to
You
fish.
can't make them drink water or something like that. You know what I'm talking about. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Right, drink.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
But
I'm like,
also you can teach a guy to fish and he'll eat forever too. So you have to be that self-motivated to seek and throw that hook out there and fish, right?
exactly.
That's that scaling part. But yes, it is all about that. That's why I do what I do, because I want to give people that understanding that, again, they have to be clear on what they want to do, or otherwise they're going to waffle and vacillate. But
Oh,
but you have to take the first step, because you might not end up in that same place, right? Excuse me, you will not end up in the same place, but you have to start. So, Trevor,
yes.
I ask every guest, and I started this in Unique Leaders. So if you go back and listen to Glenn Lundy was on that. He's going to be on Propel soon. I ask everyone this question. So we've been talking about the fact that throughout your life, you've had those mentors, those coaches, but that mentor that stepped in and cared enough about you, that coach, meaning the financial service coach, and then your pastor was on some level a spiritual mentor and coach, a life coach, and then you took those steps and put them together and helped others and recognized your own field of favor. Okay. All right.
Yep.
So with that, because they're different, what is your passion, right? Walking on this treadmill right now, getting energy, keeping on.
Yeah.
What is your passion and what is your purpose?
You know, like I said, my passion is helping other people avoid the mistakes that I've been through. And, you know, shoot, I'll give you one right now that I'm working on that I'm real passionate about, which is, you know, in financial services, it's a very highly regulated, highly compliance, like a lot of red tape. You know, it's hard to market your business and do things like that, and to be on social media and to do stuff. And so, so one of my passions right now is I've had to work really, really, really hard, because I'm all over the place, all over social and all of this stuff. I've had to like plow through that whole system and figure out ways to do it. And so I've got a roadmap. And so my real passion right now is, again, to help people avoid the mistakes that I've been through and to help save people that time. And so like, I love, you know, mentoring and giving back to other agents and advisors. That's one of the things I'm real passionate about right now. But yeah, my purpose, you know, so that's such a deep question. What's my purpose? You know, I think my purpose, again, is just to help as many people as possible. You know,
I think possibly your passion, because I watch you, and you are and we're a lot alike in a lot of ways, actually. And your passion, you have a creative essence to you.
Definitely that. Yeah.
And
spot on.
Yeah, because if you weren't quote unquote creating, now people think of creating as, you know, taking a canvas out and painting, you know, a masterpiece. No, creating is observing and putting things together. And you're a creative. You may not have thought of yourself as that, but you are creative.
1000%. That is so accurate. Yes. I love creating things, processes, systems. Like, to me, I like to figure out business and like dissect it. I literally, like, as I'm working with some of the mentees and things like that, I'm asking them, hey, what are your wins? Okay. And they'll tell me one of their wins. They're like, I had this client, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, cool. Where'd you get that person? Where did it come from? Tell me about the conversation that led up. What was the approach? Like, let's dissect it. Let's pull it apart, because I want to see if there's something we can replicate. Can we duplicate? Can we make it easier? Can we streamline it? Like, I'm constantly pulling things apart and putting them back together. right?
Yep.
And trying to figure out how to streamline things and make things systematic and make it easier. Anyway, so that's just part of who I am. You're absolutely right. I'm very creative.
Your purpose is then that piece of helping others, identifying their dreams, goals, and aspirations, and attaining them. And because that is my purpose. And my passion is creative. Because if I wasn't creating something, I couldn't breathe. And my purpose is helping others to identify, really, to begin with. And that's what you just said about with your mentees.
You're absolutely right about that, Megan. So one of the things that fills my cup back up, because I'm constantly pouring out on other people. Always. I'm pouring. I'm like giving all the time. And so I'm like, one of the things that actually fills me up is, gosh, when people share their story back and they're like, hey, Trevor, I did this and it worked. I can't believe it. Man, you're right. Blah, blah, blah. And they tell me, and like, I get to see the impact that it has in their life. I'm like, oh, yes, let's go. Nothing fills me up more than that, to see results, because that's like, I don't know what it is, but it's like, I get to see the fruits of the labor.
Right.
Oftentimes we're pouring out our cup all the time. If you don't see it, like, I want to see it. Like, for me, I want to see the results. Right. And I love people that take action too. Because a lot of times, again, lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Exactly. There's so many people that you teach stuff to, and they want the recipe, but man, they don't want to get in the kitchen and cook.
Amen.
They want you to cook it for them. And it's like,
brother.
No.
That's it. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to roll their sleeves up. They just
I'll give them the recipe too. I'm like, here's what you do. Here's the recipe. You put some flour in, you mix up some eggs in there, you spin it up, right? Here's the recipe. They want you to do it.
One of my favorite stories about when I sold a portion of the business, right, which I'd been working, building for 17 years. I didn't sell the trade name, Novitas Spa. I didn't sell the URL. I didn't sell the skincare product line. But anyway, during that early season, I said, I knew as I knew. And this is another thing that you said. I called Sharon Lecter because A, I knew her and I knew her phone number. And B, I knew I needed to talk to someone because, again, we all can't do it alone. So I called her and I said, Sharon, I have just sold a business that I have been working on for many years. And it's part of my identity. It's part of me. It's part of my life. So, I just need to talk to somebody. It's somebody who knows what business, right? And what she said to me, Trevor? She said, Megan, you're not retiring, you're refiring. And
that is her. Oh my gosh, hold on. That's so her. Like, that is her. Like, that was a perfect impersonation. That was great. That was great. Good job.
So she said, you have so much information in you. You got to get it out, girl. Okay, girl, I'll talk to you later. So basically, that's how Propel came about. Okay. And so I, like you, we're always working, we're always creating, we're always doing, we're always, expanding it and all of that. But recently, I have a last question for you.
Yeah.
Recently, I went to a conference in Houston, and it was a women's conference, and it was at a church, and so it was a spiritual conference, let's call it that, okay? And what really struck me, there were several things that struck me about it, because you and I go to a lot of things, but they're more business oriented. And so what struck me about it was that, because I hadn't been to one of those and maybe never, and so that it was just women and it was just spiritual. And so they were like sharing their, tales of woe and about salvation, don't misunderstand. And there was a positive message to each person speaking. But they didn't share with the audience any tools. Okay. So I went out to dinner with some gals, and one of them is a colleague. And one of them used the word business ministry. Oh, you're in a business ministry. Oh, I am? That's interesting. So I started pondering that, marinating, as I call it, right? Talking to Holy Spirit. Okay, what is about this? And so what came to me was this biz ministry. the term biz ministry. And I called Miss Angeline Moore, my colleague here, and I said, could you check and see if GoDaddy has, the availability? So we've secured biz ministry, biz-ministry. But if you think about the word ministry, so I have a couple questions about this.
Okay.
If you think about the word, because we've talked about your church experience and how impactful, and it's still impactful. It's part of your life. It's an essence of your life. It's I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's a part of keeping you focused on righteousness. If you want to, Matthew 6:33, seek the kingdom of God. But so I want to know your feeling about the word ministry, because if you think about the word ministry, I think it's got a bad rap. It's very churchy, very churchy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go to Europe, the minister of this, the minister like in, Italy and France, and, it's the minister of finance, the minister of that, but it means it's their field. So so what, I don't want to go any further. What do you think about combining the understanding that that's your field and this is what God has assigned to you to do? Meaning that will expand, of course, and change and evolve. But what do you think about that, Trevor?
Okay. Couple of things that you said. So in other countries, right, it kind of means something a little bit different. So I can understand that. Here we kind of understand the faith part of ministry. I think of the word when I hear ministry, and I actually hear a different word.
Mm-hmm.
And this is interesting. It's going to sound a little bit interesting, but I hear networking. And I'm like, what? What does that mean? Well, when I think of networking, here's my definition of networking. It's about helping other people, okay, figuring out how you can make their life easier, better, solve a problem, like figuring out how you can serve them, right? And that's what I think about ministry. I think of the same thing. It's serving other people, right?
Yes.
And I don't look at it like when I think about networking, some people go in networking and they're like, it's all about them. Like, hey, what can I get out of this? No. That's the wrong way to look at it. See, there's this thing called the law of reciprocity, or you reap what you sow, right? And so if you sow a good seed, guess what happens? You reap a good harvest. Okay. It's biblical. It will come back to you. Don't do it with expectation. Go in and serve. Go in and help make someone else's life easier. So when I go network, okay, I literally sit down with somebody. This is what I was doing with the job seekers. I'm like, hey, what's going on? What do you need? What's the challenge? What's the problem? How can I help? What can I do? How can I connect dots? Right? And I was figuring out ways to serve them. Right?
Yes.
And it came back.
Right.
It just does. It's the law of reciprocity. So when I hear the word ministry, to me, that's what I think of. It's the same concept. It's serving other people and making their lives easier. So, that's what I hear.
Yeah, no, I love it. And it's really, again, what we both do. And everyone we, Who Do You Know show, that's basically.
It is a ministry.
It is.
It is. I just don't. Okay. And so here, just maybe if I can go a little deeper,
please.
I don't necessarily like, it is a ministry. It really is. But like we even, for the longest time, we would pray over the audience. Like when we had live studio audiences and like we're about to have one with Ken Coleman coming in on Monday with a live studio audience. Right. And like, I'll pray over them. Right. It is a ministry, but I also don't want to be so preachy with it that it pushes people away. Like I want to attract people in and let them see the goodness and let them feel it. Right. Yes. And so I don't know if I said the Who You Know ministry show or whatever,
right.
If I called it that and put it in the title, it could deter people from even wanting to, but it also can attract people. But you're kind of in an echo chamber at that point, right? Because you're only attracting like minds. Right. So I don't know how I feel about that so much. I'll be honest with you. If you do that, just be prepared that that's what you could
Oh,
be
I'm
creating.
not saying I'm going to. It's just what really compelled me to even look at that, honestly, look at it, was the fact, I'm going to repeat, the fact that there wasn't, and we're talking about challenges and solutions, solve a problem, serve a need, right? Because that's what we do.
Yes.
So what, I don't want to use the word disturbed me, but what perplexed me, made me think about it, was that there were the speakers shared their stories, and we all know stories are powerful, and they shared their positive ending, but I guess me, the doer, the helper, there was what was missing was that networking, or that other, yes, those steps to how did they get to XYZ, and how they help you, with that same, whatever it is, whatever trauma they went through, because that's why, like you, for instance, you had a very chaotic, traumatic childhood. But yet, through the grace of God and circumstances, like you said, from the judge and different things, but now you're able to minister those stories to, and
Amen. Let's go.
I'm sure you do it.
Go.
I'm
Let's
sure you
go. I love it. And I get to do it in a different type of way, right? Because that's one of those other superpowers that I have, is that I'm adaptable. Okay.
Yeah.
I can fit into spaces and I can communicate with just about anybody. Okay. Like literally I can fit into a lot of spaces because I grew up with so many different types of people.
Yes.
All the different stereotypes. We had literally what you called the freaks. Okay, they were all black, gothic looking, that's what they call them, right? Back in the day, they called them the freaks and the goths and the ravers, okay, who were doing all the ecstasy and all that kind of stuff, okay? And then the thugs, like I had all of that, right? And so I know how to hey, I can commute, and I see in people, all ethnicities, backgrounds, all of that. I see that there's good and there's bad in everyone. And I'm able to look at a person's actions and judge them off of that. Like, I don't care what you look like, but how do you treat me? How do you treat others?
That's it.
Right?
Right.
Like, that's what I care about, and
it's the heart.
Yeah. What's
It's
inside?
the heart. It's the heart. And that you mentioned Glenn earlier, Glenn Lundy. I mean, that's a very compelling thing about Glenn, is that he has, and he talks about it too, like you just did. He speaks about how, he 2 doors down, right? His father and mother and his background. And so he can assimilate to many, many different circumstances.
His story, when I heard him at 10X Growth Con, and because I went and, and when he won, and his story, I've heard him say it before, but it was so powerful in that 3 minutes.
Yes.
He crushed it, and he had me in tears to watch him crush it like that, and to hear the identity issues, the identity crisis issues that he had. I had the same thing.
Yes.
I remember on one end with my mom wearing FUBU, dyed hair, blonde, acting thug life, to now having to wear Abercrombie, or not Abercrombie, Old Navy, and, switching schools and having to I just remembered there's some identity issues in here, who am I? I remember in the car industry, hey, how you doing there, sir? How you doing? Hey, let me talk like this, hey, how,
and then jacket and tie, and
suit and tie. And I tell people now, it's so funny because look at the way I'm dressed. I got a polo on, I'm wearing jeans, tennis shoes. And you see other financial professionals, and they're all suit and tie, button up, and I'm like, listen, I'm not your typical suit and tie Wall Street guy. That's not me. I gotta be me, okay? I can't be something I'm not anymore, right?
So let's close this Propel with that. No,
all right.
No, with that, being you, because
be you.
Because be you, boo, because the bottom line is, that's one of the most important things I learned a long time ago. I mean, and I'm not going to share my entire life story, because there's so many different, seasons, like you're talking about yourself. But I realized many years ago that, I am me, And I'm not going to not be me. And I've evolved. Truly evolved, that's for sure, in different ways. But the thing is that I'm the essence, and the essence of me, the spirit that God made me is me. You know, I'm a New York girl, deep in the heart of Texas, with a creative, serving, mentoring spirit. That is who I am. So when I'm on your show, that is how you'll introduce me. You know?
Hey, let's go. Let's make it happen. Let's go.
So let's, amen. Because that's the essence. So this is who you are. And this essence, you, Trevor Houston, who I so admire and so respect on everything we've said tonight. And I wanted you on the Propel Your Business and Life, because it is about business and it is about your life. And it is about that synergy together with you and helping others propel. So as I said, you remind me, you know, I didn't have the same childhood, no, but I did have some disjointedness, that's for sure, in my later, years. From, let's say, 19 on, there were a lot of challenges. But with that said, it is the essence of who you are, who's a mighty man of God with a great spirit, a great humor, and just wanting to share that with the world. And you're just beginning, kiddo.
I appreciate you. Thank you. And yes, I'm just getting started. So y'all be on the lookout. Okay. I'm coming to a city near you. Okay. I'm coming at you. All right. You're not going to be able to get away from me. I'm just getting started. As Megan said, she said it, not me. So here we go. Let's rock and roll.
And I want to leave too, because I see the trailer, but I don't see that well because it's so dang small. Is that how will you mentioned several times when we started that you'd been working with mentees, and you've spoken about that throughout this time together. These are people that you're training for business. These are people that you're training for financial services. Who are you training?
Yeah, financial services. Yeah, they're working kind of underneath my wing. I'm showing them the ropes right now, and just kind of, showing them what I know, and how I can help them with this stuff. So yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Okay, so folks, if you have a desire to go into that field and grow and glean from this brilliant man and this mentor of personification, do contact Trevor, because I'm sure his information is going across the trailer here. So we'll have that though in the show notes and everything about what we've been talking about tonight. Okay. So
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you, sir. And so stay in the green room and with Miss Angelina, and I'll be right there.
Awesome.
Wow. What a special evening. As I said earlier, I met Trevor. I really didn't meet him. It was on an audio app, but listened to him and how he put it together. And I've been following him ever since. And so it is really incumbent upon you, if you have a desire to grow, to learn financial services and or other pieces that he does, really do follow Trevor on social media, contact him. And that is what Propel, the deep dive, is about. And I say global because I interview people all over the world, and it is so rich to hear people's stories like Trevor tonight. So do join the Propel community. We not only do the Propel deep dive, we did a challenge last week. I had 8 guests, and we did a panel, and it is about business and life and identity and building your business and life together. I do a motivation, and Trevor was talking about information, motivation, mindset. I do a thing called a daily, Propel Daily, every day, little nugget from me, and then a newsletter every week, motivation, mindset. But essentially, I'm here to help you just step out and take that first step. The second and third step will be revealed to you. But it will not happen. You can take this to the bank, Trevor Houston. It will not happen if you don't take that first step. That is what Trevor has been speaking about all night, and that is what I speak about all the time. Take that first step. The second and third step will be revealed to you. But gain clarity. I'm here for you on my website, as she just put up, the Propel And that takes you to the link tree, the Sparkle tree, which has all these facets on it. But my program, Propel Your Business and Life Activation Program, is there as well. So I'm here for you guys. Love you and thank you. And we'll see you next Wednesday for another Propel Deep Dive Global. Be blessed.
Hello, peace. Hello, joy.